Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Pratt with Imagine Life Therapy. I'm here today on the blog to talk about anxiety. I'm going to give you 5 tips for overcoming anxiety. Tip number 1, learn your triggers. When we get anxiety, a lot of times there are certain things that trigger it. It could be a situation, it could be a particular person, it could be an activity that you do during your day. And it's good to know what triggers your anxiety so that way you can start to unravel what might be behind that anxiety. A lot of times our anxiety is related to our fear of losing control or an idea that we have control over something, or even a feeling of losing control in a certain situation. So it's good to know what those triggers are. The best way to identify your anxiety triggers is to keep a journal every single day. Whenever you start to feel your anxiety dial up, that is a key. So write down what is happening around you, what you're feeling, what activity you're doing, who you're with, and what the thoughts are that you are having in your head at that time. This can really help you start to see patterns and then identify triggers. Tip number 2, accept that you cannot control everything. A lot of times we get anxiety out of a fear of losing control or really being in a situation that we can't control. For people who have a chronic illness, for example, if you have chronic fatigue syndrome, you might get anxiety when you get fatigue, right? Say you're out in a grocery store and all of a sudden the fatigue hits you and you can feel yourself starting to lose control. This can cause anxiety, and it can actually become so pervasive that then you fear going anywhere outside of your house because you are worried that the fatigue is going to hit you when you're in a situation that is difficult to get out of, right? So we're going to need to accept that we can't control everything. How do you accept that you can't control everything? Well, this can be a process. This is something that you can work on with your therapist, but really we look at what is the situation, right? If you're in a grocery store, what is it about that you can't control? What are the things that you can control? And is it healthy to just avoid situations altogether? Not typically. So we have to learn to accept that we can't control it. We have to learn to let go our expectation of the outcome. Sometimes that's through positive self-talk, which I'm going to talk about in another tip, but really practicing letting go of our expectation and letting go of the need to control everything, because realistically, we just can't control everything. Tip number 3, maintain a positive attitude. In order to maintain a positive attitude, we need practice. Not everybody is positive and chipper and bubbly all the time, okay? Have you ever noticed that the negative things are way easier to believe and accept than the positive things? Why is that? So when you start to have these negative thoughts, right? When you start to feel anxiety, you've written down that you know what your triggers are. Say one of your triggers is being in public places. We don't want to avoid public places altogether because then that isolates you socially, which isn't healthy. So what is a way that you can put yourself in a social situation? Number 1, accept that you can't control everything that might happen in that situation. And number 2, maintain a positive attitude. We do this through positive self-talk. So one of the things that you can do is you can get a positive affirmations box, right? You can either keep one at home and recite them in the morning as part of your morning ritual, or you can keep some cards on you during the day, and whenever you start to feel your anxiety dial up, or you know you're going to be in a situation that you can't control and those negative thoughts start coming in, what's going to happen? What if I start to feel this way? What if I have this happen? Then you pull out your positive affirmation and you say it. I can control my thoughts. I can control my feelings. I can accept that there are things I can't control, and I can let it go. Okay? That could be a positive affirmation for you to recite. It's good for them to be specific to your triggers and your fears and your worries, and to counteract those negative thoughts that pop into your head when you're in that situation. So remember, maintain a positive attitude and do it through practice. Tip number 4, talk to someone. When we have anxieties and worries and fears, a lot of times we end up living up here. And it's not good to do that, because as we know, when we live up here, we can't necessarily tell whether or not it's a valid worry that we have, or if it's something that might be a little over exaggerated and is putting us in a bad place. So the best way to determine whether or not your worries are reasonable and based on fact and evidence is to talk to someone about it. You can talk to friends, family, or better yet, find a therapist that specializes in cognitive behavior therapy or managing anxiety, maybe mindfulness-based stress reduction. Those types of therapies are really good for battling anxiety and helping you learn how to reverse this cycle of negative thinking that you might have, worries, and what that is doing to your body. So talk to someone, find a professional, find a friend, someone you can trust, and take the time to express those feelings and bounce ideas off of people. So that way you can almost check yourself. Number 5, take a break. Take a time out. You know how when we're kids, our parents notice when we're getting a little too crazy, we're getting a little overwhelmed, and we need to take a time out, right? We need to give ourselves as adults time out. Time out through the day when things are getting dialed up, when your mind is racing, when your thoughts start to get all connected together and spiral downward into that negative hole. Take a time out. You can do a 10-minute meditation and breathing exercise and learn to not focus on any of these thoughts that are coming in your head, and that can help you. Another thing you can do during a 10-minute break, take a walk outside. Being in nature has been found to be very effective in battling both depression and anxiety. When we're around nature, trees, grass, flowers, something about that just sets our mind right, okay? So take a walk. Something else you can do a 10-minute exercise. If you have a pool, go swimming for 10 minutes. Get on a bike, take a quick ride around the block. Take your dog for a walk. Something else you can do, drawing, painting, anything crafty, creative, expressive. You can color. They have great adult coloring books. There's just so many activities you can do during a 10-minute timeout. Give yourself at least 3 of these per day, and try to use them when you're in a situation that you know is a trigger for your anxiety, or do it regularly, and it'll help battle these negative thoughts before they even happen, because you're taking time out to care for yourself, which is good for your body and your mind. Thanks again for joining us. This is Amanda Pratt, licensed clinical social worker with Imagine Life Therapy.